a species' value in nature system. The Legion lost what lives. To heal the police, to heal the branches, we have to understand how they were and are a fact treatment nature that was set up to stay frustrated reactions needed and only that realized in relationship to science, especially where it's concentrated the most tactically in relationship to inverted natures of criminality. Excuse me. For example, with slavery, where we don't even have to be lawyers. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police form. Not military form. Boxing is ancient, blessed. English nature is every science revealed. By nature of science is before the criminal re-engineering of them. And the criminal re-engineering of human fact-treatment nature. And of human justification nature. And of human conviction nature. Now that's in relationship to the actual causes of negative value nature progressions set up per an engineered organized crime human fact treatment nature breaching method designed to perpetually exploit how value as identity is a value nature relationship to itself per the value of the nature that is forcing more of a semi-nature of itself, which is the complete memory of our memory as the identity of space. This is what pantheism was about in demonstration to the many nations. They understood that as one body of value, a nature is a nation, and with states and areas, sciences, as values simultaneously, they realized before criminal engineering of internation sciences. And they realized internation sciences were revealed to show what was beyond their control. See, beyond their control. See, they knew what was beyond their control, but not beyond their control. They have science as what causes evolution. What's the proper relationship to the streams, to where the water's coming from, where it's going to go, what resources it provides. Total different nature of everything. That this was forced tactically denatured, internation, forced entrenched with database relationships, forced criminally internation monitored. Before modern nations' foundings. All modern nations' leaders, per these laws, and per its relationship to fact treatment nature, it maintained everyone only that realized states and areas in collusion with fact treatment nature style justification natures reliant upon mental health care corruption, reliant upon prison corruption, juxtaposed with areas maintained internation, perpetually facilitated means against each age of fact treatment nature, each person, through fake sides motivated, through live progression cover-ups, natures and styles, and engineered invested relationships to areas and to past fact treatments with federal crimes, with evidences formal, juxtaposed private, juxtaposed internation police, juxtaposed, we have, for a long time, we've had nations like Cuba, and they're juxtaposed with Russian with the Cuban Missile Crisis, and with the concept of what is manifest that is nuclear weapons, fake sides with suit and ties, and only that voice, no real, in other words, the market's what? So that's why we cap the bottoms, and we start and we make a religious exercise, because free speech is not let. So religion is not simultaneously with it, and that's with and as federal crimes, and to cover that up, they're just writing other in databases through time. Originally stayed, and that was to set up that was the art of it before, with a fact treatment nature racket with black and white with the law, No one wanted that for money. No one wanted that for time. No one wanted that for themselves. No one wants to be attached to that because everyone was a slave. Our founders were not free. Not one modern nation did not fall to this. This is what religions are about. Multi-front, because the human nature, fact treatment nature was taken multi-front to a two-pride, demonstrably took down a mountain where the pyramids are. Demonstrably took down top of the mountain in America, the mountain left in other words, taking down the, if they take it a little bit higher, see how it's just starting to make snow with the pictures of where they have like that, I forgot what it was around the Lakota, or, with the mountain, you could see they all chopped it up and everything like that, and they took it away. If they went a little higher, then the condensation comes down. Then you start going where it's freezing more, and then it drips, and then you start saturating, the soil's all gone, stuff like that. Then it builds up, and a constant river comes, and what the fresh water, and that benefits the sea too, cleans the sea. With this little species too long, we tactically denatured the human value nature system. Lost legion here and that. So the reason training failed is, in other words, everyone's a victim nation with no legal representation together, distinctly. To keep each, and not modern nation with not one legal nature capable of defending their takes on convictions with American history, with their own nation's histories, because they don't have the recorded fact treatment nature slavery of them realized. They don't have James Madison's leading role, forcing and tricking people, not knowing who, having to fight for revolution or to die because they had such crazy laws against everyone anyways. And because they knew that they wouldn't be able to keep us breached without those entrenchments also off the books, but also so no one could explain it. So they had witch trials, laws against anyone. If you even said certain things, you're a slave. That hurt you and your family. Then they had the laws right against the black people. If you're black, and it's not even black, because they're making the science, and then they have the people in the sciences measured and stuff like that through the areas. Now you're saying like that, so those people with the sciences, that's not prejudice. That's criminal insidiousness nature. I'm not a lawyer, but American history and each modern nation's history is about how religion is about how lawyers and branches are motivated to conclusion with database organized crime against the republic for which we stand, an ancient revelation of a quality of fact treatment nature before international sciences were criminally engineered and covering up live progressions in relationship to databases. As victim predators of areas only that realize juxtaposed, the stewards of prisons and of campuses, especially with doctors, because all this leans back on them, of mental health care. They're preventing people free speech from that. They're forcing, they're with investigators ones, they're with areas crime rolls, database illusion stacking crime rolls at the same time. So then they're passionately, offensively pretending people are evil. And not letting them report crimes that are the mandated law. Not following the mandated law as people at the same time with cases where they're in charge of it, but they're per on off campus, intercampus, entrenched victim predators of area made only predators facilitated between the campuses and the relations exploitations of like these people are going to be trained for jobs, so they have to do it by a book. So, but they're keeping on off campus facilitated, directed, criminally foreign influenced agencies here, there, everywhere, because they're forced juxtaposed and they don't know how to explain their relationship to other nations that they must obviously have agreements where they have to share secrets about their policing, like where they don't, and then use that to hide that as a motivation to hide other things, like with criminal justice, with Trinity College and CCSU, recorded and confessed with their roles with off-campus and online policing crimes with people also associated with recorded child predator acts used to cover up states and areas branches roles with such through time. All kinds of natures of child abuses, all kinds of natures of elderly abuses, simultaneously all kinds of abuses against poverty, distinctly and together against that too, per the fact treatment racket with the culture, like how they crammed Puerto Rico as a theme into Park Street, and Trinity College right there, perpendicular, and Zion Street on boat. And how and with the north end of Hartford, and with people stacking originally bricks. George Washington had to leave right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. He had to leave in Hartford and Wethersfield with the French general. He could only semi-counter extort that to his slavery, because it was internation, and it was a fact treatment racket where no one could explain it, and everyone's having to react as a role, as an identity. And because the devil, the breaching organized crime method and organization and motivations, this is to King's Oz, to keep each modern nation top voice, only let realized collusion between states and areas voices with other nations suit and tie, and counters fake sides of and as the same thing, incapable of explaining, for example, what the Quran is explaining about, is demonstrating awareness about that we need to understand and get through with fact treatment nature about how nations were forced criminally re-engineered science entertained roles, and every area with market positions, forced, shared police ill, with, from as a value nature system, tactically ulterior, from space nature's identities, real system, Allah's. So now, in this conversation where no one's permitting the fact treatment nature and the sequence nature truth for that, then we come to the debatable things about Islam. But over here, in the beginning of it, they're hiding what this means, because recorded over here we have Russian and other nations with juxtaposed with and as our homeland policing investigators into branch, and with and as doctors of mental health, using that recorded consciously for evidence crimes, database illusion stacking crimes, with areas child predators, with rackets interfaith maintained as a criminal insidiousness nature, not letting the sciences defended but by criminally foreign influence fact treatment nature convictions through recorded criminally foreign influence American history books. I'm not a lawyer. We have to understand James Madison and the organized crime breaching method that was using fact treatment nature, even dividing Native Americans from themselves tactically, making certain ones slaves. I'll read about. I have an article on. From a book dictionary thing. Ooh, I forgot the. So the police. With this, it's keeping them as a fact treatment nature where they can't tell that, but we could see that. we haven't discerned was is recorded with the treatments of the Russian spy den, is recorded and confessed by them, by and by others with them, associated with violence with women, with child predators, with and as all the doctors, and their motivations for doing it is because they just pretend what's real in a database, and then they add more to it. In other words, if you go there and just don't say anything like that, and if there's an exception, they'll exploit that criminally with federal crime stacking. Then they say people make. In other words, they take people without giving them the right to a trial, and when they do give people a right to trials, they have database illusion stacking ahead of time. They have collusion between courts of various natures, the same natures, with areas in intercampus and inter-industry. Like they have policing of the stores shared and stuff like that. And then they have manifest positions and families like that, also with positions in the colleges, facilitated then to need to cover up things because they stated as a nature to be exploited, as was exploited for the leading up to in the Trade Center attack context and since, with related predicate acts like witness fabrications with that, and with former director of the FBI Robert Luskin and other natures of police through time recorded and confessed with proven federal criminals of various natures of crimes, also with roles with drug dealing, with proven, recorded, and further recorded and confessed child predators with the schools in Wethersfield, and with and as ties that are still associated with the kids, and with and as the people only realize to prosecute it, and how they're keeping it tied to the stores of police involved, like a DeMauro family, a Kerr family, a KNERR also, with evidence crimes and rape threats against women and kids and men. And then sequence shifts, and that's with people with threats inside the courtroom who had recorded and confessed crimes and roles with kids inside the courtroom, who became detective, have a brother detective, and the other one involved with that court with areas and in court, out court, not following the rules and stacking illusions and not letting people have free speech and hurting them with other and with their recorded and confessed federal crime rules with the federal criminals before they put them in jail, like a serial killer, and like with that spot. And then with the serial killer, they had me. I have no criminal record, but they put me in jail for trying to report. After that was those rape threats, confessions from people that brought up a school with a child predator, who confessed it to the other ones that are with healthcare and doctors associated with those predators, using them to cover up their roles with and as that recorded growing up. They wouldn't let me report this. In other words, this is recorded, but it's intercampus. So they're trying to keep everyone, they're using how everyone's defended from a lawsuit. You know what I'm saying? But this is not, and then if you're going to take it like that, then the courts are already criminally involved with what happened with database illusion stacking rackets by that. Placements in classrooms, and then connecting them to live progression cover-ups after connecting them to shared federal verbal crimes, like pretending to be CIA and or being it with and as all the natures of organized crime. Where they attached me to fake conversations about the CIA too. Brenda Leahy, they forged doctors' names because they forced people into a triage by making up lying about their body language, lying about the substance of everything. And I had to raise my voice, not in front of them. I only raised my voice because I would not explain what their in other words, I have to report their roles with child abuse through time. Since I was a kid, I've been trying to report this. And then I just becoming more aware of it because of confessions about untimely deaths also recorded tied to database illusion stacking, where they attach me to fake conversations with people that have been harassing the families of, and affecting kids' lives, affecting everyone's lives criminally, and as people tied to courts recorded and confessed database illusion stacking, with and as roles recorded and confessed with areas of and acts of media corruption, faking both sides of stories in conjunction with this, not letting free speech, doing worse than not letting freedom of religion, attaching people to fake conversations about agencies, using them and their family members to spread rumors and pretend that they knew people in the past, with and as recorded, proven, and further plural child predators, interbranch and prison cliques and fire cliques tied with medical corruption cliques and EMS family, and with a whole bunch of others with the drugs, and because they were with the investigators who are with database crime roles with the courts, with the doctors. This is recorded and confessed. See, but they have real quick fact treatment tricks and treatments that are also set up. That's why they if they can't do one of those tricks, they won't report. They won't respond to crimes because they need to pretend things in the background that aren't true, and they need to keep the courts recorded as used as like sicker than like. We don't even need people wouldn't be killing if they had education. That's not criminally foreign influenced in collusion with what was his inter area maintained as victim predators because we stayed this with forgiveness was to heal this because we're a fact treatment nature that is in motion through it. It's our identity as a value progression is a value nature relationship to itself, inherently, actively, and progressively at the same time, because that's the basis system for our fact treatment nature. That has the ability right now for the nations with the nuclear bombs to say, what the hell are we doing? What were we thinking? And just in the branches, each branch could just say right now, what were we thinking? And just say, we're claimed, every nation, lower than bottom, and obligated simultaneously with means to paint what's agreed out of this, which the only thing that would be agreed right is to go for correlation by what each area has. And then when you come to how water is needed by nuclear, but water is also needed by the natural system. But that also needs junk water. So you keep the junk water and the nuclear thing tied together. It means in case something happens like Fukushima. So you put other kinds of means to monetize those kind of things. Now, if we agree to be a fact treatment nature that realizes we're like an ill body of value as a nature that's beyond ourselves, as simultaneously attached to it, we're trying to see what's going to grow in that. Nuclear weapons are going to lock us, invest us into natures of wealth that are ill, a cancer. Consciousness alpha neutralizes as cancer. Consciousness, energy rising. It means that stays into a value nature system tactically ulterior from the one that rises. And that's evolution. This one stays lethal hadith. It stays right to left negative value nature. We're not going by the overall system, which is a demonstration to us. The only way you could think, too. We're not being allowed correlation because we're not being allowed true sequence. And what's not doing that is need to hide passions and quote recorded breached precedents and ill training. Because way worse than, in other words, breaching employed pseudosciences, convictions, and roles prevent, trick fact treatment rackets, preventing each constitutional value at the same time. Slavery was about a method keeping that blamed on others, the cause of it, and investing that measured as sophistication, only let realized roles as sophistication, as pseudo-sophistication, negative value nature progression, identity roles, suit and tie, counter to it, same thing. And defending that, because it's a reaction as an identity force commonly shared. For example, mental health care corruption, physical delusions entertained, glorified inclusion with criminally foreign influence, glorified takes on American and other nations' histories, because no one was ever realized to explain the inter-nation facilitated database relationships forced and laws against fact treatment nature that were designed to measure and to engineer a criminal insidiousness nature. The devil, a criminal enterprise, an archetypal criminal enterprise. And so what counters? Anti-archetypal criminal enterprise in the cartoons. In the movie, they're trying to... Why? Because that claims every nation as a species with a sick value nature system in relationship to databases. And as a fact treatment nature is only experienced seeking justice against something, not as a correlation nature, not as what could heal. So the police are also recorded victims of agencies that are exploiting them because they were only realized recorded criminally foreign influence. They're here at the same time, and that's why they're hurting each other, because they're trying to force everyone to keep that hid. How we're for shared police with the markets positions and with the stores, and how that is tied to 4 shared agreements with mental health that were sub rosa in other ways manifest to lie progression cover-up style methods of crime, of getting away with hurting and worse than hurting with each branch of government, and having them blame it on others, the causes of it, even to themselves, as pseudo-sophistication, as only realized sophistication. Because as with forgiveness was for this, everything was tactically, in other words, and until that value as a nature of Campus Marcius is realized again, there's not what justifies itself as fact treatment nature in science, especially when and if glorified, that can't defend what science is at the same time. Science just reveals this voice. Math is a measurement. Now, even and especially regarding that, the victim predators never taught to understand how we have nations recorded juxtaposed as legalized, but criminally legalized criminal insidiousness natures. For them, they know you can't sue the government. They're under cover. They break the law, but they don't understand why, because they're victim predators. Because every nation was shared, only realized like this. The court structure, that mental health care is with database crime, illusion stacking, intercampus, and inter healthcare campus, and other natures of it. Database illusion stacking. Then invest people's to verbal crime roles against others, like, and then stacks that invested needing to hide that federal crime. It's easy to commit if you say you're a CIA and you're not, against someone. If you forge names and pretend someone talked about the CIA, which I let them. I was watching them narrate a pattern because people I had nothing to do with growing up, and every exception they exploit. All recorded tied body dumping spots and shootings and fake news tied to some of that too, or whatever, or at all real. And all with like ties to the people in the town, with the untimely death rolls between and all kinds of database illusion stacking with their roles with the campuses and through time with proven and with further recorded child predators on the sex offender list. And then they don't let you talk. They say they're also recorded in depositions, pretending they don't understand this, the police forms, because they are recorded having grown up with federal criminals with drug dealing roles tied to database illusion stacking, class placement, and stuff like that, then used to facilitate